Hello, divine creations, divine marvels, children of God. Thank you so much for dropping by. Guess what? It's another day of life. We have the gift of one more day of life here on this earth. Bruno Groening pointed out that um, to be here in a body on this earth is a precious gift from God. He went so far as to say that we're allowed to have this opportunity. Before the teachings of Bruno Groening, I kind of looked at life as a burden. And, there's a part of me, it's like, oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to be dead and be in heaven. And I think many people feel that way. Mm. But what I've come to realize is that was a very deep lack of spiritual understanding on my part about what life is all about, specifically what life in a body here on this earth is all about. And thanks to our dear friend Bruno Groening, I've come to realize that this is a school, that life is a school, and that the purpose of life is to learn how to learn in essence how to be guided by God, to learn how to do the good and be the good and be be the light of the world, as Christ said, or a light of God in this world. So welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining in. And let's light ourselves up a little bit. Bruno Groening taught a very simple practice for how to connect to the divine, how to be guided by the divine. And how, as he said, to really charge up our batteries so that we're full of good energy, so that we can go through this school of life, and also that it can be so much more joyful. Because we all know, when we're very low energy, life is a lot less fun. But what Bruno Groening taught us and reminded is that it's natural. It's natural to be full of life energy. So to receive this energy, it's very simple. Please sit with your legs uncrossed, feet flat on the floor, hands on your legs, palms facing upwards. Back in a nice upright position, not slouched, but not stiff, just a relaxed upright position. And then please close your eyes. And now hand over all your worries, all fears, any situations from the past that we're still thinking about. Let's entrust them to the divine, or entrust them to a spiritual helper such as Bruno Groening, whom we trust. Handing over any fears, handing over any physical illnesses, any burdens. Bruno Groening said they don't belong to us. And having handed over everything that doesn't feel good, let's think of something that brings us great joy, and then begin to observe the body, having the will, the intention to take in healing life energy, to fill up the empty space of the burdens we just gave away. And let's make a firm determination that we are sick and tired of evil, and we want the good, and we want to be guided by God. Having made that, having engaged our will for the good, the will to receive the good, let's begin to observe our bodies, taking in, taking in all that God is sending to us. Once again, noticing what you feel, observing your body, taking in the good, being mindful of our thoughts, handing over any negative thoughts, taking in, taking in what's good, and allowing this energy to relieve us, to cleanse us of what's not good. Welcome to everyone who's joining in live. And welcome to everyone who's watching the recording of this video. So please, if you're new, you're welcome to, I really encourage you to just continue to observe your body. You can even keep your eyes closed, taking in the energy. And please, please don't take anything I say as the truth. Even if I'm quoting Bruno Groening, who I consider to be one of, if not the purest soul to ever walk on this planet. He didn't want people to believe anything he said, but to find out for themselves. And so Bruno Groening, time and time again, called individuals and called humanity as a whole to, I'm going to try a little German here, to the Groben Umkehr, which can be translated many ways. Groben is pretty easy. Great, huge, vast. Umkehr, change, turning around, reversal. The word that comes to me is a U-turn. When you're heading one direction, actually I didn't come up with that. Someone on here did. Thank you, Arcantor. You're heading in one direction, and then you turn around and you start going in a completely different direction. So the great reversal, or the great turning back to what? Well, first and foremost, back to God, and back to honoring God's creation, nature. So that's what it is on a very abstract level. And Bruno Groening said, recognizing the divinity, the good in human beings. So that's the very abstract picture of what Bruno Groening calls each of us as individuals and what he called all of humanity to. A completely different way of life, a completely different way of being. Focused on God, honoring nature, honoring the divinity, literally honoring the God inside of each one of us that lives, I'll put it that way, the divinity that lives inside each one of us. Seeing human beings as sacred, seeing nature as sacred, and then recognizing our need and dependence on God, and as human beings, then our need and dependence on nature. So let's take a little time and reflect on this, continuing to observe the body, noticing what you feel. Taking in the ideas, the fundamental meaning of what the great reversal, the great turnaround is. Focusing on God, honoring nature, honoring the divinity inside of each human being. Noticing what you feel, having the will, the intention to take this energy in. Really taking it in, taking this energy in with faith in the sender of it. That's part of what Bruno called us to, is to regain our faith in God. A spiritual discipline I work at every day and fall short every day is, as I go throughout the day, to have thoughts like this: God, I'm no longer running the show. How can I serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. As many times as I can throughout the day, remind myself who is in charge. Because before really getting serious about the spiritual path, I thought I was in charge. I thought I was the boss, not just of myself, but other people too. So Bruno Groening pointed out that if we want to succeed in life, we need to follow God. Now that goes completely contrary to almost everything that I've been taught, and I assume most people have been taught, about how to live life. Not just how, but how to orient towards life. Bruno Groening called us to a 180, meaning a 180-degree turnaround. And umkehr also means a turning back, back to where we came from, and ultimately back to what's natural. Living in harmony with nature, honoring God and following God. That seems very natural to me. So let's reflect on this idea of letting God be in charge. Recognizing that we're the child, he's the parent. Bruno Groening said he's the father. I don't claim to understand why Bruno referred to God as a father or why it's written that Christ did. But regardless of whether you think of God as a father or a mother or an it, what's important, I believe, is the recognition that he, she, or it is in charge and that we're meant to follow him, her, it. So observing the body, noticing what you feel, asking yourself, is it natural? Does it make sense to strive to follow God? What does that mean? Am I even open to that? observing the body, being mindful of our thoughts. So Bruno Groening called all of humanity to a completely different way of life as well. Right now, I've talked a little bit more about just the orientation of orienting towards following God and honoring nature. But he called us to recognize that we are literally dependent on the energy of God and we need it to thrive. And he literally called us to the recognition of a moment by moment awareness of our thoughts and to check each thought because that's, I don't know if Bruno ever quite said it like this, but my understanding is, according to Bruno Groening, that negative thoughts is evil's number one tool for harming, for in essence gaining control of us. And so we just start where we are, one thought at a time. And the ultimate goal is to be mindful of every thought, which thoughts we say yes to, which thoughts we say no to take on the radical stance that everything happens for a reason, a divinely guided reason, even the painful things, even the things we think are terrible. According to Bruno Groening, there's always a divine purpose, a lesson. To recognize the truth that beyond the laws of physics, of biology, chemistry, beyond the practice of medicine, which is based in the sort of laws of chemistry, biology, and physics, there's a higher law that supersedes all of them and that is more powerful. That every problem has a divine solution. That's not to say not to go to a doctor. That's not to say not to try holistic or alternative methods of healing. And to always recognize that every situation does have a divine answer and to follow guidance. Sometimes I feel guided to go to the doctor. Sometimes I feel guided to do a particular natural or alternative therapy. That's between me and God, as it is for every person, to tune in to their conscience, which Bruno Groening said he was here to restore. He's called the natural human instinct. That inside of our conscience, he said, that's our soul. And that's where God lives. So to literally to connect with the divine spark, he also called it, within us that knows what to do, that knows right from wrong. And then to follow that and hence follow God. And to view this earth, and not just this earth, but these bodies we've been given as a sacred gift from God, and to treat them well. And that doesn't just mean exercising and the food we eat, it means also taking in this good energy, which many cultures have recognized that these bodies don't just live on air and food alone, air, food, and water alone, that they literally live on life force. So let's reflect on all this, observing the body, taking in the good, handing over any thoughts that don't feel good. taking in the good, reflecting on all this. Every day I become more and more convinced that Bruno Groening is right, that if I want to succeed in life, and for a moment just give away all our notions of what success is. What I mean succeed is be happy, healthy, and be harmonious, much less particular ambitions I might have, but to have a successful life, that the principles that Bruno Groening taught are really the only way. I'm not convinced that Bruno Groening's the only one to express these things. I find pieces of things that Bruno Groening taught across culture, across every religion or spiritual tradition I've ever looked at. I find some of what Bruno Groening taught, but I'm utterly convinced that this fundamental message of aligning ourselves with God and following God is really the only way to have a good life. Or that's what I'm convinced for myself. So, but again, don't take my word for it. It's kind of a funny question. So basically, what I just said is, hey, look, the only way to have a good life is to follow God. So we can look at it in the other way. Is it possible to have a good life and not follow God? Let's keep in mind, according to Bruno Groening, God is the good, harmony, life, love itself. Not the religious idea of God, but goodness itself. That if we're not actively seeking to align with the good and follow the good, that we just can't have a good life. It actually, it sounds a little dogmatic at first, but when we really look at it, it kind of makes a lot of sense. So let's begin our closing. Reflecting on all of this, asking the question, ask yourself, don't take I'm just a dude on the internet. Ask yourself, can I have a good life, a harmonious life, if I'm not actively seeking to align myself with, to be in harmony with goodness? Observing the body, taking in the good. And do not know everything about Bruno Groening's teaching. I've studied, I know this little. I think I understand the essence of Bruno Groening. So if there's anything you feel that I've left out about what Bruno Groening meant by the great reversal, please do post it in the comments section. And let's really ask for ourselves the willingness to turn around, to follow God, to watch our thoughts moment by moment, and to seek connection with God moment by moment. And please, for blessing for our household, harmony in our households, in the cities we live in the countries we live in. Please, for this beautiful planet, for Mother Earth. For those who are very near and dear to us. For any special projects or tasks we're working on. Please, for recognition of the tasks that we came to this earth to do. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Thanks, Magdalena, Gerald, Forever Loving Everything, and Magdalena for saying good evening. For all of you for saying hello. Magdalena said good evening. Take care, divine creations, divine marvels. I'll see and feel you very soon.